January 1945. Snow-covered fields of Latvia. A tank brigade under the command of Hazi Aslanov is pushing towards the Baltic Sea. On the map before him are the last kilometers of the journey separating Soviet troops from final victory. No one knew then that this journey would be the last for the legendary tank commander. Hazi Aslanov, a name inscribed in golden letters in the history of two nations. Born in the Azerbaijani city of Lankaran in 1910, he became a symbol of courage and military prowess for both his homeland and the entire Soviet Union. From a simple village boy to the commander of a tank brigade, a path that required not only talent, but also incredible perseverance. Twice, hero of the Soviet Union, holder of the Orders of Lenin, the Red Banner, Suvorov, Alexander Nevsky. Behind each award stood not just military merits, but saved soldiers' lives and liberated cities. In the small Azerbaijani town of Lankaran, located on the shores of the Caspian Sea, on January 22, 1910, a boy was born into the family of a simple worker, Hazi Aslanov. No one could have predicted then that this child, named Hazi, would become one of the most celebrated tank commanders of the Soviet Union. Hazi's childhood was not cloudless. When the boy was only 6 years old, his father died, leaving the family without a breadwinner. His mother, left with 4 children, barely made ends meet. Little Hazi early learned the hardship of labor and responsibility for his loved ones. Young Aslanov was distinguished by his curiosity and perseverance from childhood. Despite difficulties, he strived for knowledge. Locals recalled that the boy often sat over books late into the night by the dim light of a kerosene lamp. He was especially fascinated by stories of great military leaders and heroic battles. National traditions of the Azerbaijani people played an important role in shaping Hazi's character. From an early age, he absorbed values such as courage, honor, and dignity. In Lankaran, where various cultures and traditions mixed, the boy learned to respect people regardless of their origin and faith. In 1924, when Hazi was 14 years old, he began working in a fishing artel. Hard physical labor hardened his character and developed endurance, which would later save him on the battlefields more than once. Aslanov's leadership qualities manifested themselves already in his youth. His co-workers noted his ability to organize people and find solutions in difficult situations. He was not afraid to take responsibility and always stood for justice, which earned him the respect of those around him. A turning point in the young man's life was his acquaintance with military personnel who often visited Lankaran. Their stories about service, discipline, and camaraderie made an indelible impression on Hazi. It was then that the dream of a military career was born in his heart. In 1929, when Aslanov was 19 years old, he made a decision that determined his entire future destiny: to join the Red Army. For a village boy, this was a bold step into the unknown. But his strong character and determination helped him overcome all doubts. As she saw her son off, his mother gave him an instruction that he carried throughout his life. Serve honestly, do not forget your roots, and always remember that you represent not only yourself, but also your people. These simple words became a moral compass for Hazi Aslanov throughout his heroic journey. In 1929, Hazi Aslanov took a decisive step. He voluntarily joined the ranks of the Red Army. For the young Azerbaijani, this was not merely the beginning of service, but the first step towards realizing a dream. A military career opened new horizons for the village lad and opportunities to demonstrate his leadership qualities. Aslanov's first months of service proved to be a time of intense learning and adaptation. Discipline, a strict daily routine, the need to quickly master new skills. All of this demanded complete dedication. However, it was here that his perseverance and natural ingenuity, which commanders noticed almost immediately, became evident. After just 1 year of service, Aslanov was sent to junior commander courses. His outstanding abilities and responsible approach to tasks did not go unnoticed. In 1931, he became a cadet at the Leningrad Armored School, where he first encountered the technology that would later become his destiny. Training at the Armored School was not easy for Aslanov. The lack of fundamental education was apparent, but his iron will and natural quick-wittedness helped him overcome difficulties. At night, he studied textbooks, learned the design of tanks down to the smallest details, and honed his combat vehicle driving skills. After graduating from the school in 1933, Aslanov was assigned to a tank regiment as a tank commander. From this moment began his formation as a professional tankman. He quickly established himself as a competent, proactive commander, capable of making unconventional decisions. In the pre-war years, Aslanov continued to improve his skills. He actively participated in exercises where various tactical methods of tank combat were practiced. He paid particular attention to the interaction of tanks with infantry and artillery, understanding that success on the battlefield depended on the coordination of all branches of service. By 1938, Hazi Aslanov was already commanding a tank company. His unit consistently showed high results in exercises, and Aslanov himself earned a reputation as a demanding but fair commander. Soldiers respected him for his professionalism and humanity, and his superiors valued him for his initiative and ability to achieve set goals. In 1939, Aslanov took part in military operations at Khalkhin Gol against Japanese troops. This was his first baptism of fire, where not only tactical skills but also personal courage were demonstrated. For his bravery, he was awarded the Medal for Courage. On the eve of the Great Patriotic War, Aslanov was already an experienced officer, with years of service and real combat experience behind him. He sensed the approach of a great war and understood the responsibility that would fall on the shoulders of the tankmen. He strived to pass on all his knowledge and experience to his subordinates, preparing them for the upcoming trials. On June 22, 1941, the peaceful life of Soviet people was cut short. For Captain Hazi Aslanov, as for millions of his compatriots, the most severe trial began. By this time, he was already an experienced tanker, having received his baptism of fire at Khalkhin Gol, but the scale of the new war surpassed everything he had encountered before. The first months of the Great Patriotic War became a true trial by fire. Aslanov, commanding a tank company, took part in the most difficult defensive battles in the western direction. The enemy's superiority in equipment, their years of perfected blitzkrieg tactics, and the suddenness of the attack, all this created a critical situation at the front. Particularly difficult were the battles in Belarus, where German tank formations broke through the Soviet defenses. In these conditions, Aslanov's extraordinary qualities as a commander became evident. He did not lose his composure even in the most desperate situations, was able to quickly assess the situation and make the only correct decision. In one of the battles near Minsk, Aslanov's company found itself cut off from the main forces. The enemy outnumbered them several times, and ammunition was running out. In this critical situation, Aslanov made an unconventional decision. Instead of taking up a defensive position, he organized a daring night attack. He told his subordinates. The calculation proved correct. The night attack by Soviet tankers sowed panic in the enemy's ranks, allowing the company to break through to their own while destroying several enemy tanks and artillery pieces. This episode became characteristic of Aslanov's tactical style. to act unexpectedly, exploit the enemy's weaknesses, and show initiative even in the most difficult situations. Even then, his comrades noted his ability to think outside the box, to find solutions where, it seemed, none existed. In October 1941, when the enemy was rushing towards Moscow, Aslanov was given command of a tank battalion. In the most difficult conditions of retreat, he managed to maintain the combat readiness of the unit and the high morale of the soldiers. "The most important thing now is not to lose faith in victory," he told his subordinates. And he himself demonstrated this faith, personally leading the most dangerous operations, being at the forefront alongside the crews. Hazi Aslanov's unique tactical style was forged in the crucible of war, influenced by combat experience and natural military talent. By mid-1942, he had developed his own vision of tank warfare, which differed significantly from the standard approaches of the time. The main feature of his command style was his ability to use tanks not merely as a means of breaking through defenses, but as a tool for deep maneuver on the battlefield. Aslanov told his subordinates, he developed his own combat tactics, which tankers among themselves called its essence lay in a swift breakthrough of enemy defenses by a narrow group of tanks, followed by dispersion and an attack from the flanks and rear. This approach allowed for maximum effect with minimal losses. During the battles near Stalingrad in the autumn of 1942, Aslanov first fully applied his tactical developments. His tank battalion was tasked with breaking through enemy defenses in an area where the Germans had established strong anti-tank positions. Instead of a frontal assault, which was expected of him, Aslanov divided his forces into 3 groups. The main group simulated preparations for a frontal attack, distracting the enemy, while 2 maneuverable groups bypassed the fortifications from the flanks and struck the enemy's artillery positions. "You need to make the enemy think we are acting according to a pattern, and then break that pattern," he explained his plan. The result of the operation was the rout of the German anti-tank area and the capture of a strategically important height with minimal losses. Another of Aslanov's innovative approaches was the active use of tanks in night operations. At that time, night tank attacks were considered extremely risky due to limited visibility. However, Aslanov developed a methodology that allowed his units to operate effectively in the dark. He introduced a system of conditional light signals between vehicles, practiced the order of movement in columns, and methods of orienting on terrain without visible landmarks. Thorough crew training and detailed route planning allowed for successful night raids into the enemy's rear. In January 1943, Aslanov's tank brigade carried out a legendary night raid in the Kotelnikovo area, passing through enemy positions and attacking German rear areas. The surprise of the attack was so complete that the enemy could not organize effective resistance. As a result, ammunition, fuel, and food depots were destroyed, which seriously undermined the combat capability of the German grouping. Stalingrad, November 1942. The city lay in ruins, yet every house, every floor, every basement became a fortress. In this hell of fire and metal, Hazi Aslanov's tank battalion received orders to support the infantry in the tractor factory area. The offensive was scheduled for dawn. Aslanov personally inspected each vehicle, met with every crew. His calm and confidence spread to the soldiers. "The main thing is not to be afraid to maneuver," he told the commanders. "A stationary tank is a dead tank." The first attack faltered under a hail of anti-tank fire. 2 T-34s caught fire near the German positions. Aslanov quickly regrouped his forces and made an unexpected decision: to attack not across open ground, but along the bed of a dried-up river, which the Germans considered impassable for vehicles. "We will go where they least expect us." He explained his plan to the company commanders. The risky maneuver succeeded. Aslanov's tanks burst into the enemy's positions from the flank, creating panic and disorganizing the defense. The infantry, taking advantage of the confusion, seized several key buildings. In the heat of battle, communication with one of the companies was lost. Aslanov, without hesitation, got into his command tank and set off to find the unit. Breaking through debris and barricades, he personally led the blocked vehicles out from under fire. "A commander must be where it's hardest," many tankmen remembered Aslanov's words. He never demanded from his subordinates what he could not do himself. His personal bravery became a legend among the soldiers. Particularly fierce battles unfolded for Height 126, which controlled the approaches to the city center. The Germans had turned it into a veritable fortress. 3 attacks by Soviet infantry were repelled with heavy losses. Aslanov proposed an unconventional solution: a night tank raid. "Darkness is our ally," he said at the meeting. "We will strike when they least expect it." Aslanov's battalion attacked the height at 3 in the morning. Tanks with their headlights off silently approached the base and suddenly opened fire on enemy positions. Simultaneously, artillery struck from different directions. The Germans, not expecting a night tank attack, wavered. By dawn, the height was taken. Aslanov lost 3 vehicles, but saved most of the battalion and accomplished a seemingly impossible task. For this battle, he was awarded the Order of the Red Banner. In December 1942, Aslanov's tankmen participated in Operation Uranus, the Soviet counteroffensive near Stalingrad. His battalion operated at the spearhead of the attack, breaking through enemy defenses and creating corridors for the advance of the main forces. January 1943 was marked by the end of the Battle of Stalingrad, where tank units under the command of Hazi Aslanov played a decisive role. It was for these battles that the 32-year-old major was nominated for the country's highest award. The decree of the Presidium of the Supreme Soviet of the USSR awarding Hazi Aslanov the title of Hero of the Soviet Union was signed on December 22, 1942. The official wording in the award citation read, "But behind these dry lines lay dozens of brilliantly executed operations and hundreds of saved lives of Soviet soldiers." Particular note was made of the operation to liberate the Kotelnikovo station, where Aslanov's battalion, in the most severe winter conditions, carried out a 40-kilometer raid behind enemy lines. The tank crews destroyed 17 tanks, 8 armored personnel carriers, and more than 300 enemy soldiers and officers. At the same time, their own losses amounted to only 3 combat vehicles. Colonel General of Tank Forces Yakov Fedorenko, who was present at the award ceremony, said then, "Aslanov fights not by numbers, but by skill. His tactics save the lives of our soldiers and equipment, which is priceless for the front now." After the Battle of Stalingrad, Aslanov's name became known throughout the army. His methods of tank warfare were studied in military schools. Particularly notable was Aslanov's ability to effectively interact with infantry and artillery, which allowed for maximum results with minimal losses. Archival documents preserve a characterization given to Aslanov by the commander of the tank army. Possesses exceptional tactical thinking, capable of finding unconventional solutions in the most difficult combat situations. Personally inspires soldiers, enjoys undeniable authority among subordinates. It is noteworthy that Aslanov received the Gold Star of the Hero from the hands of Mikhail Kalinin himself. After the award ceremony, a short conversation took place, during which the chairman of the Presidium of the Supreme Soviet inquired about the secret of the young tank commander's success. Aslanov replied, "This phrase subsequently became the unofficial motto of all units commanded by Hazi Aslanov. The first star of the hero became not only a recognition of Aslanov's personal merits, but also a symbol of the valor of the entire Azerbaijani people. The Republic proudly received the news of its son's award. Newspapers wrote about the tankman's exploits. His portraits appeared on posters calling for the fight against fascism. The summer of 1943, the liberation of Ukrainian soil from fascist invaders became one of the priority tasks of the Soviet command. It was here, in the vast expanses of Ukraine, that Hazi Aslanov revealed his full talent as a tank commander. After the defeat of German troops near Stalingrad, Lieutenant Colonel Aslanov was given command of an entire tank brigade. Now he had dozens of combat vehicles at his disposal, which he skillfully used as a single, well-oiled mechanism. In July 1943, Aslanov's brigade participated in the liberation of Donbass. The Germans had created a powerful line of defense here, saturated with anti-tank artillery. A frontal attack threatened heavy losses in men and equipment. Aslanov said at a meeting of commanders, reconnaissance reported that on the left flank of the German defense was a swampy area, which the enemy considered impassable for tanks. Aslanov personally went on reconnaissance and, after studying the terrain, decided to attack precisely there. He explained his plan. To reduce the pressure of the tanks on the ground, special wooden decking was made. Carefully camouflaged tanks took up their initial positions at night. At dawn, when a dense fog enveloped the area, Aslanov's tankmen began their offensive. Having overcome the swampy section, they suddenly attacked the enemy from the flank and rear. The element of surprise was complete. The Germans did not have time to deploy anti-tank guns and organize an effective defense. As a result of this brilliantly executed operation, the enemy's defense was breached over a wide section of the front, which allowed the main forces of the Soviet troops to develop the offensive. In one day of battle, Aslanov's brigade destroyed 23 tanks, 47 guns, and more than 300 enemy soldiers and officers. Aslanov's tactical genius was particularly evident during the Korsun-Shevchenkovsky operation in early 1944. His brigade acted at the forefront of the advancing troops, creating conditions for the encirclement of a large enemy grouping. Aslanov developed the tactic of, quote, swift raids deep into the enemy's defenses, followed by dispersion and attack from different directions. This allowed him to disorganize the German defenses and create panic in their rear. The main thing for a tankman is speed and maneuver, he told his subordinates. We must be everywhere and nowhere at the same time, not giving the enemy the opportunity to concentrate forces to repel our attack. Why was Hazi Aslanov so loved and respected by his subordinates? What made him not just a commander, but a true leader capable of inspiring people even in the most difficult situations? The answer lies in the unique combination of professional and human qualities of this amazing man. First and foremost, Aslanov stood out for his attitude towards people. For him, every tank crewman was not just a combat unit, but an individual with their own strengths and weaknesses. A commander must know his fighters not only by their surnames, but also by their characters, he would tell young officers. Mikhail Karpov, a veteran of his brigade, recalled, Hazi Aslanov possessed an amazing gift. He could see in a person what they themselves did not notice. Many of us, thanks to him, discovered abilities in ourselves that we had not suspected. Aslanov never yelled at subordinates, nor did he demean their dignity. Even the strictest disciplinary actions he espoused in such a way that the fighter felt not resentment, but a desire to correct the mistake and justify the commander's trust. This phrase of Aslanov became a unique principle of educational work throughout the brigade. The brigade commander paid special attention to young soldiers who had just arrived at the front. He personally spoke with each newcomer, trying to assign them to a crew with experienced tank crewmen who could pass on the necessary skills. Aslanov would say, "An important feature of Aslanov's leadership style was his ability to create an atmosphere of mutual respect and trust in a multinational collective." Representatives of more than 20 nationalities served in his brigade. Russians, Ukrainians, Belarusians, Georgians, Armenians, Tatars, Kazakhs. "We don't have Russian or Azerbaijani tank crewmen," the brigade commander liked to repeat. "We have Soviet tank crewmen, and we are all one family." These words were backed by actions. Aslanov never divided fighters by nationality, promoting them solely for combat merits and professionalism. Guards Sergeant Nikolai Petrenko recalled, "In our crew, the driver-mechanic was a Tatar, the gunner was a Ukrainian, the loader was a Belarusian, and I, the tank commander, was Russian. And we became the best crew in the company not despite this, but thanks to our diversity." The brigade commander said that therein lay our strength. Aslanov possessed a rare quality, the ability to make decisions and take responsibility in critical situations. At the same time, he never shifted the blame for failures onto subordinates, always personally answering for the actions of his brigade. The success of an operation is the merit of the fighters. Failure is the fault of the commander. He strictly adhered to this principle throughout the war. It is noteworthy that Aslanov never demanded from subordinates what he could not do himself. He regularly went to the front lines, personally led complex operations, and shared all the hardships of frontline life with the soldiers. By the end of the war, Hazi Aslanov's name thundered across the entire front. His 35th Guards Tank Brigade had become a true forge of victory, and the brigadier himself was deservedly considered one of the best tank commanders of the Red Army. It was during this period, when Soviet troops were irresistibly advancing towards the enemy's lair, that Aslanov proved himself to be a strategist of the highest caliber. In January of 1944, Aslanov's brigade participated in the Kirovograd operation. The German command had turned the city into a powerful fortified area, saturated with anti-tank artillery and armored vehicles. A frontal attack threatened heavy losses. Aslanov proposed a daring solution: a night raid bypassing the main enemy fortifications. He explained his plan to the army commander. After thorough reconnaissance, Aslanov's tank crews covertly moved to their starting positions. At midnight, when German sentries were less vigilant, the brigade, without a single shot, overcame the enemy's forward positions and suddenly attacked headquarters and communications centers deep within the defense. Panic in the enemy's rear was complete. Deprived of command, the German leadership could not organize effective resistance. By dawn, the main forces of the Soviet troops had entered the city. For this operation, Aslanov was awarded the Order of Suvorov, second class. In the spring of 1944, Aslanov's brigade took part in the liberation of Odessa. Here, his talent for improvisation was fully displayed. When the forward elements of the brigade encountered powerful anti-tank barriers, Aslanov made an unexpected decision: to attack along the coastline using a narrow strip of sandy beach. Quote, he said, "The risk paid off. The tanks passed along the coastal strip and struck the flank of the defenders, ensuring the success of the entire operation." It was for these brilliantly executed operations that, in July of 1944, Aslanov was nominated for a second title of Hero of the Soviet Union. The award sheet noted, "However, fate had other plans." The second Gold Star found its hero only decades after his death. For many years, the question of Aslanov's posthumous award remained open. Only in 1991 did historical justice prevail. by decree of USSR President Mikhail Gorbachev. Guards Major General of Tank Troops Hazi Aslanov was awarded the title of Twice Hero of the Soviet Union. Why was the award so delayed? Historians link this to a number of circumstances. Firstly, Aslanov's death in January 1945 coincided with a period of large-scale Soviet offensive, when many documents were lost in the bureaucratic machine of wartime. Secondly, there were certain political factors related to the post-war period. But the main thing is that Aslanov's name was not forgotten. His combat operations were studied in military academies, and his feats inspired new generations of tank crews. The tactical methods developed by Aslanov entered textbooks on tank warfare and are still considered classics of military art. The second Gold Star became a symbol of recognition, not only of Aslanov's personal merits, but also of the contribution of the entire Azerbaijani people to the common victory over fascism. As one of his brigade's veterans noted, Aslanov was not just an outstanding commander, he was the embodiment of the brotherhood of peoples fighting shoulder to shoulder against a common enemy. Today, the name of twice hero of the Soviet Union Hazi Aslanov is immortalized in the names of streets and squares of many cities. His busts are installed in Baku and Lankaran, and most importantly, the memory lives on of a man whose talent and courage brought closer the day of the great victory. January 24, 1945. Snow-covered fields of Latvia. Soviet troops are engaged in fierce battles with the encircled Kurland enemy grouping. Hazi Aslanov, now with the rank of Guards Major General of Tank Forces, receives an order to break through the enemy's defenses in the area of the city of Priakule. On the eve of the operation, Aslanov, as usual, personally inspected the readiness of the equipment and met with unit commanders. Quote, he told the officers, "In the early morning, as the first rays of the sun barely broke through the winter clouds, Aslanov set out for a reconnaissance of the area. He was accompanied by a small group of staff officers. The general wanted to personally assess the enemy's positions before the decisive offensive. Suddenly, their vehicle came under fire. According to one version, it was German artillery. According to another, an ambush by a sabotage group. Eyewitness accounts vary, but the result was tragic. Hazi Aslanov suffered a mortal wound. Reconnaissance platoon commander Vasily Kuznetsov, who was nearby, recalled, "We heard an explosion and rushed to help. The general was pulled from the car, but it was too late. A fragment hit him directly in the heart." News of the beloved commander's death instantly spread throughout the brigade. The tankmen could not believe that their brigade commander, who seemed invulnerable, would no longer lead them into attack. Many seasoned frontline soldiers did not hide their tears. Quote, said mechanic driver Ivan Petrenko, "The front command immediately reacted to the tragic news. The commander of the tank army personally arrived at the brigade's location to pay tribute to the fallen general. We have lost one of the best tank commanders of the Red Army," he said at the morning rally. Aslanov was not just an outstanding military leader, he was a symbol of courage and the brotherhood of the peoples of our country. There are several versions of Aslanov's death. According to official documents, his vehicle was blown up by a mine. However, some eyewitnesses claimed that the general died from a direct shell hit. There is also evidence that it could have been a sniper shot or sabotage. Historian Mikhail Solovyov, who studied the circumstances of Aslanov's death, notes, "In wartime conditions, it is extremely difficult to precisely establish all the details of what happened. Documents were often compiled in haste, and eyewitness accounts can be contradictory. But the main thing remains unchanged. Aslanov died as a hero, fulfilling his military duty." Hazi Aslanov's funeral was held with military honors. According to his last will, the hero's body was transported to his homeland, Azerbaijan. Thousands of people came to bid farewell to their national hero. Aslanov's death, a few months before the end of the war, became a symbolic tragedy. A man who had gone through the most terrible trials did not live to see the victory, which he had so diligently brought closer with all his actions. In his last letter to his wife, sent the day before his death, Aslanov wrote, "I feel that the end of the war is near. Soon we will finish off the fascist beast in its lair, and I will return home. We will live the peaceful life we have dreamed of for so long." The tactical legacy of Hazi Aslanov is not just a page in military art textbooks. It is an entire school of tank warfare that was ahead of its time. Many techniques and methods developed by the Azerbaijani commander have become classics of military science and continue to be studied by modern military specialists. One of Aslanov's main tactical achievements was the creation of the quote zero concept. Unlike traditional tactics of massive tank attacks, which led to heavy losses, Aslanov preferred to operate in compact, highly mobile groups, striking at the enemy's weak points. A tank is not only armor and firepower, but first and foremost speed and surprise, Aslanov told his subordinates. This principle formed the basis of his tactics of deep raids, when small tank groups penetrated deep into enemy lines, disrupting communications, destroying headquarters and warehouses, and sowing panic among enemy troops. Particularly innovative was Aslanov's developed method of night tank attacks. Before him, night operations by tank units were considered extremely risky due to limited visibility. Aslanov developed a system of orientation, light signaling, and crew interaction that allowed for effective operations in the dark. Professor Nikolai Volkov of the Military Academy of Armored Forces notes, "An important element of Aslanov's tactical legacy was his concept of tank interaction with other branches of service. He developed detailed instructions for coordinating the actions of tank units with infantry, artillery, and aviation. This experience was generalized in special manuals that were used in the training of tank crews in the post-war period." It is noteworthy that many of Aslanov's tactical techniques found application not only in the Soviet Army, but also in the armed forces of other countries. American military historian Richard Simpkin, in his book, quote, notes, "In modern military conflicts, Aslanov's tactical principles continue to prove their effectiveness. Maneuverability, surprise, and the ability to operate in non-standard conditions. These qualities remain key for armored units in the 21st century." Aslanov's legacy lives on not only in textbooks and manuals. The Military Academy of Armored Forces holds annual Aslanov readings, where military specialists discuss the development of tank troop tactics in modern conditions. For cadets of tank schools, tactical games are organized based on scenarios of famous operations conducted by Aslanov. The memory of heroes lives in the hearts of people, and the name of Hazi Aslanov is forever inscribed in the history of two nations, Azerbaijani and Russian. After his death in January 1945, the perpetuation of the memory of the outstanding tankman who became a symbol of courage and brotherhood of peoples in the fight against fascism began. In Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, one of the central metro stations bears the name of Hazi Aslanov. A majestic bronze bust of the twice hero of the Soviet Union is installed in the tankman's homeland, in the city of Lankaran. Wide avenues and streets are named after him in dozens of cities in Azerbaijan and Russia. A special place among the monuments is occupied by the memorial complex in the village of Hazi Aslanov near Baku. Here is a museum where the hero's personal belongings, his awards, photographs, and documents are carefully preserved. Annually, thousands of school children and students visit this place to touch history and learn about the exploits of the legendary tankman. In Moscow, in the Central Museum of the Armed Forces, an entire exhibition is dedicated to Hazi Aslanov. Among the exhibits are his general's uniform, award sheets, personal weapons, and maps with markings made by the commander's hand. Aslanov's diary, in which he recorded his thoughts about the war, comrades, and the future peaceful life, attracts particular interest from visitors. Aslanov's image is reflected in literature and cinematography. Azerbaijani writer Imran Kasumov created the novel General, based on the hero's biography. The book was translated into many languages and became a bestseller not only in the countries of the former USSR, but also abroad. In 1975, the feature film, quote, telling about Hazi Aslanov's life path, was shot at the Azerbaijan Film Studio. The film received several prestigious awards at international film festivals and still remains one of the brightest works about the heroes of the Great Patriotic War. Modern Azerbaijani composers have created several musical works dedicated to Aslanov. The symphonic poem Tank March, written by Arif Melikov, is particularly popular, where heroic motifs intertwine with lyrical themes symbolizing longing for the homeland. In schools in Azerbaijan and Russia, Aslanov's lessons of courage are regularly held, where children are told about the hero's exploits. These classes have become an important part of the patriotic education of youth, helping to foster respect for history and traditions of friendship between peoples. The name of Hazi Aslanov is borne by dozens of schools, military academies, and public organizations. In Baku, the Hazi Aslanov Foundation operates, which is engaged in charitable activities and supports war veterans. In 2000, for the 55th anniversary of victory, a commemorative postage stamp with the image of Hazi Aslanov was issued. And in 2010, for the centenary of his birth, large-scale solemn events were held in Azerbaijan and Russia, including military parades, scientific conferences, and cultural festivals. The Adidas Azerbaijani people's contribution to victory over fascism is hard to overstate. From a small republic with a population of less than 4 million, over 600,000 sons and daughters went to the front. Every third of them never returned home, forever remaining on the battlefields from Moscow to Berlin. Among the Azerbaijani heroes, a special place is held by 121 heroes of the Soviet Union and 14 full holders of the Order of Glory. Their names have become symbols of courage and selflessness. Israfil Mamedov, the first Azerbaijani to be awarded the title of Hero of the Soviet Union. Zia Bunyatov, a legendary scout who carried out dozens of daring raids behind enemy lines. Gafur Mamedov, who covered an enemy pillbox embrasure with his body. Mehdi Husseinzadeh, a fearless partisan who terrorized fascists in Italy and Yugoslavia. But even among this galaxy of heroes, the name of Hazi Aslanov shines especially brightly. He became the embodiment of the brotherhood of peoples who fought shoulder to shoulder against a common enemy. Representatives of more than 20 nationalities served in his brigade, and for all of them, the brigadier was not just a commander but an older comrade, ready to share all the hardships of frontline life. Azerbaijanis made a huge contribution not only on the battlefields but also in the rear. Oil workers from Baku supplied the front with fuel. Every third tank and plane was refueled with Baku gasoline. Workers and collective farmers toiled 16 hours a day under the slogan, "All for the front, all for victory." A special page is the formation of national divisions. The 77th, 223rd, 227th, and 229th Azerbaijani Rifle Divisions distinguished themselves in battles for the Caucasus, Crimea, Ukraine, and Belarus. Their combat path is marked by dozens of liberated cities and hundreds of destroyed enemy fortifications. Many Azerbaijanis became outstanding military leaders. Major General Haji Aslanov commanded a rifle division that liberated Ukraine and Moldova. Major General Mahmoud Abilov led the formation of national units and personally participated in the defense of the Caucasus. Major General Tarlan Aliyarbakov headed artillery units that distinguished themselves during the storming of Berlin. Azerbaijani pilots wrote bright pages in the history of air battles. Adil Kuliev shot down 22 enemy aircraft, becoming one of the best aces of the Soviet Air Force. Hussein Bala Aliyev completed over 300 combat missions and was awarded the title of Hero of the Soviet Union. It is impossible not to mention the feat of Azerbaijani women. Ziba Ganieva, a legendary sniper, destroyed over 120 fascists. Almaz Ibragimova served as a military surgeon and saved the lives of hundreds of wounded soldiers. Sonu Nurieva was a brave partisan and scout behind enemy lines. Hazi Aslanov became a symbol of the unity of peoples in the fight against fascism. His life path is a vivid example of how a representative of a small nation, thanks to talent, courage, and loyalty to duty, was able to rise to the heights of military art and forever inscribe his name in the history of a great country. The legacy of Hazi Aslanov in the modern world extends far beyond military history. His name has become a symbol of the unity of the peoples of Russia and Azerbaijan, an example of how the shared memory of past heroes can serve as a bridge between countries and generations. Joint events dedicated to the memory of the legendary tankmen are held in Baku and Moscow, Lankaran and St. Petersburg. Annual military historical conferences gather historians, veterans, and youth from both countries to discuss not only Aslanov's feats, but also the common heroic past of their peoples. The figure of Hazi Aslanov is unique because he is equally revered in Russia and Azerbaijan, notes historian Farid Alakperli. In an era when many historical events are interpreted differently, the memory of the heroes of the Great Patriotic War remains what unites our peoples. In the patriotic education systems of both countries, Aslanov's image holds a special place. School children write essays about his exploits. Military academy cadets study his tactical techniques, and young tankmen dream of replicating the achievements of the legendary brigade commander. In 2010, on the centenary of the hero's birth, large-scale celebrations were held in Azerbaijan and Russia. The presidents of both countries laid flowers at Aslanov's monuments, emphasizing the significance of his figure for Russian-Azerbaijani relations. The memory of heroes like Hazi Aslanov is not just a tribute to the past, it is an investment in the future of our relations, noted the president of Azerbaijan in his speech. In the era of information technology, Aslanov's legacy takes on a new life. Interactive museums and virtual tours of the battle glory sites of the 35th Guards Tank Brigade have been created. Documentary films and multimedia projects introduce young people to the hero's biography in a modern format. A special role is played by meetings of the descendants of tankmen who served under Aslanov's command. Children and grandchildren of soldiers of different nationalities gather to share family stories and their fathers' and grandfathers' memories of the legendary brigade commander. My grandfather always said that Aslanov was not just a commander, but a father to his soldiers, says Alexei Petrov, grandson of a mechanic driver from Aslanov's brigade. He treated everyone with respect, regardless of nationality or rank. It was this that created a special spirit of brotherhood in the brigade. Today, as the world faces new challenges and threats, The example of Hazi Aslanov reminds us of the importance of unity in the face of common danger. His life's journey, from a simple village boy to an outstanding military leader, serves as an inspiration for those who believe in the power of the human spirit and the possibility of overcoming any obstacles. Hazi Aslanov's legacy is not just pages in history textbooks and street names. It is a living memory passed down from generation to generation, uniting peoples with shared pride in a heroic past and faith in a peaceful future.